Do you know the sound of a heartbreaking? It isn't a loud crash, like a glass vase hitting a marble floor. It isn't a scream that tears through the night. No. It is a silence. A deafening, suffocating silence. It is the sound of a door locking from the inside, separating you from the very person you gave life to. It is the sound of rain hitting an old, tattered suitcase that holds 60 years of memories, while you sit on a cold park bench, realizing that your sacrifice meant nothing. My name is Eleanor. And I am not telling you this story to ask for your pity. I am telling you this because I want you to know that sometimes, the people we share blood with are the ones who bleed us. It all started 5 years ago, after my beloved husband, Robert, passed away. Robert was a good man. He worked at the steel mill for 40 years so that our only son, Daniel, could go to the best universities, wear the best clothes, and never feel the sting of poverty. When Robert died, a part of me died with him. But I looked at Daniel, my tall, handsome son, and I saw Robert's eyes. I told myself, Eleanor, you must live for him. He is your legacy. Daniel was about to get married to a woman named Jessica. Jessica. Just saying her name leaves a bitter taste in my mouth, like spoiled milk. In the beginning, she was charming. She would bring me flowers, call me mom, and ask for my recipes. I thought God had blessed me with the daughter I never had. When they decided to get married, Daniel came to me with his head down. Mom, he said, we want to buy a house in the suburbs, but the bank loans are impossible. We can't afford the down payment. I didn't hesitate. Not for a second. I looked around the house I had shared with my husband for 30 years. Every corner held a memory. The mark on the wall where we measured Daniel's height. The armchair where Robert used to read his newspaper by the fire. But I thought, what good is a house if my son is unhappy? So, I did what any mother would do. I sold it. I sold my memories. I sold my security. With the money, I bought a beautiful, large house in a prestigious gated community, and then, I made the mistake that ruined my life. The title deed office, the clerk asked, Mrs. Eleanor, who will be the owner of the property? I looked at Daniel. He was smiling, holding Jessica's hand. I wanted them to feel secure. I wanted him to be the man of the house. Write it in my son's name, I said. It is my wedding gift to them. That signature was my death warrant. We moved in together. The arrangement was simple. I would live in the downstairs guest suite, and they would have the rest of the house. For the first few months, it was tolerable. But slowly, the masks began to fall. It started with small things. Microaggressions that were so subtle, I thought I was imagining them. One evening, I made a beef stew, Daniel's favorite since childhood. We sat down for dinner. Jessica took one bite, grimaced, and pushed the plate away. Daniel, honey, she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. Did you buy this meat from the discount store? And this stew, it tastes a bit bland. I think your mother's taste buds are fading with age. Maybe we should just order takeout? Daniel looked at me, then at her. He ate the stew in silence. He didn't defend me. He didn't say, my mother spent 3 hours making this. He just pushed his plate away too. That was the beginning. Over the next year, I became a ghost in my own house, the house I paid for. If I watched the news in the living room, Jessica would walk in, sigh loudly, and say, I have such a migraine. I need absolute silence. I would turn it off and retreat to my room. If I tried to help with the cleaning, she would snatch the vacuum from my hand. Please, Eleanor, don't. You miss all the spots anyway. You're just making more work for me. But the worst was the isolation. They stopped inviting me to dinner. They would order food for two, eat in their bedroom upstairs, and leave me to eat alone in the kitchen. My son, my Daniel, stopped looking me in the eye. Guilt is a heavy burden, and he couldn't bear to look at the woman he was allowing to be abused. Then came that Tuesday night. The night the sky cried with me. It was storming outside. Thunder shook the windows. I was in the living room, reading my Bible, seeking some comfort. The front door opened, and they walked in, soaking wet but laughing. They looked so happy. For a moment, my heart warmed. "Mom, sit down," Daniel said. He didn't smile at me. He looked nervous. Jessica was beaming. She held up a small plastic stick. "A pregnancy test." "We're pregnant," she squealed. "You're going to be a grandmother." My heart swelled. I stood up, tears of joy in my eyes, reaching out to hug them. "Oh, thank God. This is the best news." Jessica took a step back, dodging my hug. Her smile faded instantly, replaced by a cold, steely look. "Yes, it is good news," she said. "But we need to talk about logistics." I froze. "Logistics?" Daniel cleared his throat. He looked at the floor, at the wall, anywhere but at me. "Mom," he started, his voice trembling slightly. "With the baby coming, we need the space. The baby needs a nursery. And, well, Jessica is very sensitive right now. She needs privacy. She needs a stress-free environment." I looked at them, confused. "I can help," I pleaded. "I can look after the baby. I can cook. I won't be in the way." Jessica cut in, sharp as a knife. "That's the problem, Eleanor. You are in the way. Your old things, your coughing at night, it's too much. I cannot raise a child in this environment." Then, Daniel delivered the final blow. The blow that killed Eleanor the mother, and gave birth to something else. "We think it's best if you leave, Mom. There is a state-run nursing home downtown. Or maybe you can find a small room somewhere? I'm sure you'll figure it out." "Leave?" I whispered. "But this is my home. I bought this home. Legally, it's my home," Daniel said, his voice suddenly hard. Defensive. "The deed is in my name, Mom. You gave it to me. And now, I am asking you to leave. For the sake of my family. I am your family." I screamed. It was the first time I had raised my voice in years. "Not anymore," Jessica sneered. "Now, we are his family. You are just the past." She walked to the door and opened it wide. The wind howled outside, rain spraying onto the expensive hardwood floor I had paid for. "Pack your bags," Jessica said. "Tonight. I want the room empty for the painters tomorrow morning." I didn't argue. I didn't fight. When your own child looks at you with eyes that say you are a burden, the fight leaves your body. I went to my room. I packed my small suitcase with trembling hands. A few sweaters, my prayer book, and a framed photo of Robert. I walked to the door. Daniel was standing there, staring at his shoes. "Daniel," I said softly. He didn't look up. "I hope your child treats you better than you treated me. Because if there is a God up there, he is watching this." Jessica laughed. "Don't be dramatic. Goodbye, Eleanor." They slammed the door. I heard the lock turn. Click. Click. I walked out of the gated community, the security guard looking at me with pity but saying nothing. I walked until my legs gave out. I found a wooden bench in a small park 3 blocks away. I sat down. The rain soaked through my coat, chilling me to the bone. I was 65 years old. Homeless. Penniless. Abandoned. I looked up at the dark, stormy sky and wiped the rain, or maybe tears, from my face. I thought this was the end. I thought I would die on this bench, but I was wrong. As I shivered in the dark, a pair of headlights cut through the rain, slowing down near the park. A black luxury sedan stopped. I didn't know it yet, but my life was about to change forever. The wheel of fortune was turning, and it was about to crush those who had crushed me. The headlights blinded me for a moment. I shielded my eyes, expecting a police officer telling me to move along, or perhaps a group of teenagers looking for trouble. But the car engine purred with a silence that screamed wealth. The rear window rolled down. A man's voice, deep and concerned, called out through the rain. "Mrs. Eleanor? Eleanor Davis?" My heart stopped. How did this stranger know my name? Was I in trouble? Had Daniel called the authorities to take me away? I clutched my ragged suitcase tighter to my chest. "Who are you?" I croaked, my voice barely audible over the thunder. The door opened. A man in a sharp black suit stepped out, holding a large umbrella. He didn't look like a threat, he looked professional. Dignified. He walked straight to the bench, ignoring the puddle soaking his polished shoes, and held the umbrella over my shivering body. "My name is Arthur Sterling," he said gently. "I am a private attorney. I have been looking for you for 3 weeks, Mrs. Eleanor. Please, get in the car. You are freezing." I was too weak to argue. Too broken to care if it was a trap. I climbed into the back seat. The warmth of the leather interior hit me like a physical wave. It smelled of expensive cologne and safety. As the car pulled away from that cursed park, I looked back one last time at the direction of the house I had bought, the house where my son was sleeping warmly, while I had been left to die.mr. Sterling took me to a hotel. Not a motel, but a 5-star suite in the city center. He ordered hot soup, tea, and a doctor to check my vitals. He didn't speak business that night. He just let me feel human again. The next morning, sitting in a velvet armchair, still wearing the hotel bathrobe because my clothes were drying, Mr. Sterling opened his briefcase. "Eleanor," he began, "do you remember your brother, Thomas?" "Thomas?" I frowned. I haven't spoken to Thomas in 40 years. He left for America when we were just teenagers. We lost touch. Yes, Sterling nodded. Thomas moved to Chicago. He never married, never had children. He dedicated his life to his business. He became a very, very wealthy man in the steel industry. He paused, his eyes softening. Thomas passed away 2 months ago. In his final will, he hired my firm with specific instructions: find my sister Eleanor. If she is alive, she is the sole heir to everything. I sat there, stunned. The room spun. Everything? Sterling slid a piece of paper across the table. Everything, Eleanor. The portfolio, the properties, the liquid assets. After taxes, your net worth is approximately $12 million. I stared at the number. 12 million. Yesterday, I didn't have $1 to buy bread. Today, I could buy the entire bakery. I could buy the gated community my son lived in. I started to cry. Not tears of joy, but tears of irony. God has a strange sense of humor. He waits until you are at the very bottom, until you have lost all hope in humanity, to hand you the world. "What do you want to do?" Sterling asked. I wiped my tears. The image of Jessica's sneering face and Daniel's cowardly silence flashed in my mind. The old, weak Eleanor wanted to call them, to share this good news, to buy their love back. But the new Eleanor, the woman who survived the rain on that bench, she was different. "I want to disappear," I said. "For now. I need to heal. And I want you to find out everything about my son's financial situation. But do not tell him I am here. Do not tell him I am alive." 3 years passed. 3 years is a long time. Enough time to heal a broken heart, or at least, build a fortress around it. I transformed. I wasn't the frail old woman in the knitted cardigan anymore. With proper nutrition, healthcare, and a stylist, I looked 10 years younger. I wore silk blouses, tailored coats, and diamonds that cost more than Daniel's card. I didn't just sit on the money. I started a foundation for the elderly who had been abandoned by their families. I became a respected figure in the city's charity circles. They called me Lady Eleanor. But I never took my eyes off Daniel. Mr. Sterling gave me monthly reports. Karma, it seemed, was working slowly but surely. Without my pension to pay for their groceries and bills, Daniel and Jessica had started to struggle. The baby was born, a boy, but the stress of a newborn broke them. Jessica, unable to adjust to a budget, had maxed out credit cards buying expensive baby gear to show off on social media. Daniel had been passed over for a promotion at work because he was always tired and distracted. They were drowning in debt. The house, my house, was in need of repairs they couldn't afford. The roof I paid for was leaking, and they didn't have the money to fix it. I watched from a distance. I saw them arguing in their driveway. I saw Daniel aging rapidly, his shoulders slumped. I saw the misery in their eyes. Did I feel pity? For a moment, yes. I am a mother, after all. But then I remembered the lock turning. Click. Click. I remembered the cold rain. And my heart turned to stone again. Then came the day our paths finally crossed. It wasn't planned. It was fate. I was leaving a high-end jewelry store in the city center. My driver was holding the door of my Bentley open for me. I was wearing a long beige trench coat and dark sunglasses, holding a new sapphire necklace I had just purchased for a charity auction. As I stepped onto the sidewalk, I heard a commotion. A couple was arguing loudly near a beat-up sedan parked illegally in the loading zone. I told you to pay the meter, Daniel. Now look, we have a ticket, a shrill voice screamed. I didn't have change, Jessica. Stop yelling at me in public. I froze. I knew those voices. I slowly turned my head. There they were. Daniel looked terrible. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair thinning. He looked defeated. Jessica looked worn out, her face hard and bitter, her clothes looking cheap and faded, a stark contrast to the image she tried to project years ago. They were fighting over a $50 parking ticket. I stood there, just 10 feet away, next to my gleaming Bentley. My driver, a large man named James, noticed me staring. Is there a problem, Madam Eleanor? James asked loudly. At the sound of the name, Daniel stopped shouting. He turned around. His eyes swept over the car, then the driver, and finally, they landed on me. At first, there was no recognition. He saw a wealthy, elegant woman in designer sunglasses. But then, I took off my glasses. I looked him straight in the eye. The color drained from his face. He looked like he had seen a ghost. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. He tapped Jessica's shoulder frantically. Jess. Jessica, she turned around, annoyed. What now, Daniel? Then she saw me. The bag of cheap groceries dropped from her hand, smashing onto the pavement. Eggs broke. Milk spilled. But she didn't notice. They stared at the mother they had thrown away like trash. And I stood there, shining like gold. Daniel took a trembling step forward. Mom, he whispered, his voice cracking. Is that you? I didn't smile. I didn't frown. I just looked at him with the cold indifference of a stranger. Mom? Daniel's voice trembled, cracking under the weight of disbelief. He took another step toward me, his hand reaching out as if he wanted to touch a mirage to see if it was real. We thought you were dead. We called the police, we looked everywhere. I watched him lie. I watched the ease with which the falsehoods rolled off his tongue. I knew, thanks to Mr. Sterling's investigators, that they hadn't called the police. They hadn't looked for me for a single minute. They had simply changed the locks and painted the nursery. "Did you, Daniel?" I asked, my voice calm and smooth as velvet. "Or did you just enjoy the silence?" Before he could answer, Jessica pushed him aside. The transformation in her was instant and sickening. The woman who was screaming about a parking ticket 5 seconds ago was now wearing a mask of pure adoration. Her eyes were glued to the diamond necklace resting on my collarbone. I could practically hear the calculator clicking in her brain. "Oh, Eleanor!" Jessica cried out, fake tears instantly pooling in her eyes. "Thank God. Thank God you are alive. We have been so worried. Look at you, you look successful. I always knew you were a strong woman." She tried to hug me. I didn't step back. I simply held up a gloved hand, stopping her in her tracks. The rejection was sharp and public. Passers-by were starting to watch. "Don't," I said. "You might get my coat dirty." Jessica flinched as if I had slapped her. "Mom, please," Daniel pleaded, wiping sweat from his forehead. "We made a mistake. A terrible mistake. We were young, we were stressed. The baby." "Oh, Mom, you have a grandson. His name is Leo. He's 3 years old. He asks about his grandma all the time." The grandchild card. I knew they would play it. It is the last refuge of the scoundrel. "Leo," I repeated. The child whose room was more important than my life. "We are suffering, Mom," Daniel blurted out, his desperation taking over. "I lost my job last month. The bank is threatening to take the house, your house. We might be on the street next week. Please, we can be a family again. Leo needs you. We need you." I looked at them. Really looked at them. I saw 2 drowning people trying to climb onto a lifeboat they had once tried to sink. A plan formed in my mind. A plan cold enough to freeze hell. "Get in the car," I said. They looked at each other, hope igniting in their eyes. They thought they had won. They thought the old, soft Eleanor was back. They scrambled into the back of my Bentley, touching the leather seats with awe. "Where are we going?" Jessica asked, a greedy smile playing on her lips. "To your mansion?" "To the bank," I said. We arrived at the First National Bank downtown. This was the bank that held the mortgage on the house I bought, gave to them, and which they had mortgaged to the hilt to pay for their frivolous lifestyle. I led them into a private conference room. The bank manager, Mr. Henderson, was waiting for me. He stood up and shook my hand respectfully. "Lady Eleanor, everything is prepared as you requested." Daniel and Jessica sat down, looking confused but excited. They must have thought I was going to pay off their debts. They must have thought I was going to hand them a check and apologize for being absent. "Daniel, Jessica," I began, sitting at the head of the table. "You said you were about to lose the house. That the bank was going to foreclose." "Yes, Mom," Daniel said eagerly. "It's been so hard. If you could just help us with the arrears, we promise to pay you back." I nodded to Mr. Henderson. He slid a thick folder across the table toward me. "You don't have to worry about the bank anymore," I said. Jessica gasped, clutching Daniel's arm. "Oh, Eleanor. Thank you. Thank you. I knew you had a big heart." "I bought the debt," I continued, my voice hardening. The room went silent. "I didn't pay it off for you," I said, opening the folder. "I bought the mortgage note from the bank. I am now the owner of your debt. I am your creditor." Daniel's smile faltered. I don't understand." "It means," I said, leaning forward, "that you don't owe the bank anymore. You owe me." I pulled out a document. "A legal notice. And since you have missed 6 months of payments, I am exercising my right as the lender. I slid the paper toward them. It wasn't a check. It was an eviction notice. You have 24 hours to vacate the property, I said. Jessica screamed. You can't do this. We have a child. You can't kick us out. It's our house. It was my house. I slammed my hand on the table, the sound echoing like a gunshot. I bought it with my husband's blood and sweat. I gave it to you with a mother's love. And you threw me out into a storm like a bag of garbage. Mom, please. Daniel was crying now, ugly, terrified tears. Where will we go? We have no money. We have nowhere. I stood up. I walked over to the corner of the room where I had placed a small, old, battered object earlier that morning. It was my old suitcase. The one with the broken handle. The one I had carried that night. I picked it up and threw it onto the table in front of him. It landed with a heavy thud. You can go where I went, I said. The park bench on 5th Street is quite spacious. And if it rains, well, maybe you'll learn what it feels like to pray for death just to stop the shivering. You are a monster. Jessica hissed, her face red with rage. No, my dear, I replied, adjusting my silk scarf. I am just a mirror. I am reflecting exactly what you gave me. I turned to leave. At the door, I paused and looked back at my son one last time. He was sobbing, his head in his hands, destroyed. One last thing, I said. Leave the child with the nanny. I have arranged for social services to take custody of Leo temporarily until you can prove you are fit parents with a stable home. I will be petitioning for full custody. My grandson will not be raised by wolves. I walked out of the bank. Behind me, I heard Jessica screaming and Daniel wailing. But for the first time in years, the sound didn't hurt me. It sounded like justice. I stepped out onto the street. The sun was shining. The storm was finally over.